Assalamu alaikum. This is Shakeel Ayaz from English 2K19, having roll number 33. My subject is philosophy, and our concerned teacher is Madam Fasiha Noor Sumro. And today I would present my semester video presentation over here. And basically, I have chosen four topics for my semester video presentation. And my first topic is Plato. Plato is a Greek classical philosopher, mathematician, writer of philosophical dialogues. He is the founder of Academy in Athens, the first institution of higher learning in the Western world. Along with his moderator Socrates and his student Aristotle, Plato held to the foundation of Western philosophy and science. Plato was originally a student of Socrates and was of much influenced by his thinking as by his apparently unjust executions. And the exact birth date of Plato is unknown and based on ancient sources. Most modern scholars estimate that he was born in Athens in 427 BC in an aristocratic and influential family. His father was Ariston. According to a disputed tradition, Ariston traced his descent from the king of Athens and the king of Messenia. Plato's mother's family boasted of a relationship with the famous Athenian lawmaker and lyric poet Solon. Plato himself was the fourth kid in his family. According to history, the philosopher was named Aristocles after his grandfather, but his wrestling coach dubbed him the Platon, meaning broad, on account of his robust figure. According to the sources, Plato derived his name from the breadth of his ecolons, or else because he was very wide across the forehead. In 21st century, some scholars argued that legend about his name being Aristocles originated in the Hellenistic age. Plato's quickness of mind and modesty as a body and the first fruit of his youth, infused with the hard work and love of study. Plato must have been instructed in the grammar, music, gymnastics by the most distinguished teacher of his time. Plato had also attended the courses of philosophy. Before meeting Socrates, he first became acquainted with the Critylus, a disciple of Heraclitus, a prominent pre-Socratic Greek philosopher, and the Heraclitean doctrine. Plato may have revealed in Italy, Egypt to realize his aristocratic political dream. Said to have returned to Athens at the age of 40, failed. Plato founded one of the earliest known organization school on a plot of land in a grove of academies in the Western civilization. The academy was a large enclosure of ground that was once probably of a citizen at Athens named Acadenius. Some, however, say that it received its name from an ancient hero and it Justin I have Byzantium, who have saw it as the threat into the propagation of Christianity. May intellectuals were schooled in academy, that most prominent one being Aristotle. Throughout his life, Plato became entangled with the politics of Cyrus. His main interest lay in rhetoric, art, literature, epistemology, justice, virtue, politics, education, family, and militarism. And my second topic is Saint Augustine. Saint Augustine was born in 354 BC. He born in Tagus, the city of Algeria. His parents were Partius and Monica. His mother was a devout Christian and his father was a pagan. In his adulthood, he enjoyed the company of women, worked in the Roman imperial court, and lived in the Milan, a city of Italy. His conversations are that his mother urged him to be the baptized began to study under the Saint Ambrose, became furnished by the intellectual nature of faith. He was not baptized at the first because he did not want to give up the life of sins, or we can say the life of joys. Augustine received a message from God. His conversation came when he heard a child singing, "Take up and read," thinking that God indeed him to hear those words. He picked up the book of letters of St. Paul and read the first passage his gaze fell on. In 387, he was baptized by Ambrose and moved back to Africa to become a monk. In 391, he was ordained a priest. He believed the grace of Christ was the most important thing. In 395, he was ordained a bishop. He wrote Confessions as the ultimate hymn of God. Augustine's words: "You have made us for yourself, and our hearts are restless until they rest in you." Saint Augustine Confessions. That means he have left a quotation about God, that God have made us for himself, and our hearts are restless until they would meet the God. His legacy: he believed humans cannot experience true happiness until they find the God. His work centered around the notion that everything in the world is basically good. He wrote many works over his lifetime. He attempted to dispel heresy and the blasphemous ideologies. Elsewhere, Robert All Saints daily references on the saints, prophets, and witnesses for our time. Crossed Publishing Company, New York, in 1997 published about the Saint Augustine, a calendar of saints they live of the principal saints of Christian year. Oribus Book Publishing Corporation Limited in London 1986 also have published the book about Saint Augustine. And our third topic is Saint Paul. Saint Paul, born in Taurus in 1000 AD, moved to Jerusalem in 1000 AD, also studied under the Gamaliel from 10 to 20 AD, precise in Jerusalem from 20 to 30 AD, and prospector of the way from 30 to 34 AD. His conversation was that water happens when water boils. What happens when water freezes? In answer, he said, the water changes to ice or steam. We say that it has been converted. It is different from the original water. That means the shape of water which is changing, that means the shape of matter with the coldness or with the hotness which changes is totally different from the earliest water. He talked about the soul transformation. The transformation of soul is for many people one of the most inaugurating stories in the book of Acts. A violent persecutor of the church is transformed in a mighty asshole. The change in the direction of the man's life is due to the supernatural inversions of God. Saul is introduced as a man impeccably opposed to cause the Christ and his people. In the volume 1, he is described as the breathing out murderous threats against the Christians. And also, there are many his conversations about Jesus to Paul's complaints. Now I want you know, brother, that the gospel preached by me is not of human origin, for I did receive it from human being, nor was I taught it, but I came through a revelation of Jesus Christ. For you heard of my former way of life in Judaism, but when God, who from my mother's womb had set me apart and called me through his grace, was pleased to reveal his Son to me, so that I might proclaim him to Gentiles, I did not immediately construct flesh of blood, nor did I go up to Jerusalem to those who were opposed before me. Rather, I went into Arabia and then returned to Damascus. Then, after 3 years, I went to Jerusalem to confer with the Knepas and remained with him for 15 days. Then I went into the religious of Syria and Cilicia. Then, after 14 years, I again went up to Jerusalem with Barnabas, taking Titus along also. That means the Saint Paul also was a philosopher and he was also a religious person. So that's why his most of philosophies, and even we can say the 90% of his philosophies are consist about the. And my last topic is Aristotle. Aristotle was born in 384 BC. His father was a physician to the king of Macedonia. When he was 7, he went to study at the Plato's Academy. That means he was a student of Plato. Aristotle began as a student, became a researcher, and finally a teacher. Aristotle was considered one of Plato's best students ever. Plato died and willed the academy to his nephew. Aristotle left and founded the Lyceum school of thought. Aristotle was a realist and Plato was an idealist. Now we have a comparison between the student and the teacher. That means the Plato and Aristotle. The central thread of idealism is the principle of thesis of independence, that reality, knowledge, and value exist independently of the mind. Realism rejects the idealist notion that only ideas are real. Believed from is within matter and change takes place in matter. Believed a relationship exists between science and philosophy, and that the study of one leads to the study of the other. Science and philosophy. For instance, studying the material aspects of an cross should lead to a deeper, more complex, reflective thought of what an aeon is, of what is in essence, or from ozone to Craver in 2008. Aristotle gave a view that balance is the central concept of Aristotle's view. Saw universe as being in a balanced and orderly fashion. That means this universe is working in a balanced manner, Aristotle said. Education was means used to create the state of good citizen. That means education should given to everyone for making of a state where the citizens are very good. Aristotle also said the famous lines of his that are still alive, that Aristotle believed man is a rational animal. While animals express pleasure or pain with their cries, man and only man is able to speak. That means the power of speaking consists of man, that animals cannot speak, but man can speak and he can express his emotions. That's why man is a rational animal. Ability to speak allows man to be able to determine the difference between what is right and what is wrong, what is beneficial and what is harmful. So how these skills and knowledge is acquired? Through education. Through education, these skills can be acquired and man can be a rational animal. And there is a difference of animal and a man. Aristotle also talked about the knowledge and belief. The knowledge is different from belief in that knowledge is beginning of dialectic reasoning. Aristotle believed people make mistake when their judgment is not found on the reason. A person cannot make a mistake if they have knowledge of something. That means a person who have knowledge, he cannot do any mistake. But a person who have no any knowledge, who have no any central idea, who have no any theme, who does not know even about a matter, he can make a mistake. Aristotle argued that man should know his own weakness so that he would be more cognizant of what he does to make mistake. If he knows how he creates mistake, he can take steps to make sure he does what it takes to prevent mistake from happening. And his learnings, students learned about something by practicing it over and over again until they learned it. This was done through the practice of repetition. Idea of learning was practiced first, theory afterwards, or do the deed and ye shall know the doctrine. Aristotle also gave a theory that who was to be educated. Men of noble nature, only citizens of a state were to be educated. The role of women was to keep house and have children. Believed women were intellectually inferior to men. Marriage was simple to arrangement of prodigiate for the rare spring. Women were regarded as a mean and not as an end. Slaves were not educated. He gave an order of things. He gave the superiority to man. That man is superior. After man, his wives come. After wife, his children come. And also after children, the slave came. In the end, some reported thoughts on Aristotle, perplexed with obscure terms and endless questions. John Locke had a native and Celtic aministic view on the world. Jane Paget. Aristotle died in 322 BC. So this was my video presentation, and thank you so much for